I once went to the forests, lived through countless dawns and evenings, and felt the wind howl on the mountaintops. I've been filming the wildlife on the highlands for over a decade. The mountains sometimes seemed huge and full of rage, but at other times they seemed calm and tender. Gradually, I could feel the mountains, their breath and heartbeats. Through the magical encounter of the species, the mountains and I began a story of our own. 10 years ago, when I was still a student, I once ventured to the mountains and found a skull on a riverbed. I asked myself, what kind of animal is this? How did it live? Where in all the mountains and valleys of Taiwan did this mysterious animal dwell? After hiking and trekking in the mountains for years, I finally had the confidence in my ability to survive in the wild. It was also because I frequently traveled through the tribes and villages and acquired much knowledge of the animals from the tribal elders. I decided that I was ready to take on the challenge of filming the wild mammals in the forests. The Sambhar was once the most wanted prize a native hunter could get. To quest the secret life of the Sambhars, I have visited many natives' villages and asked the tribal elders of where the Sambhars usually appear.
那现在还有去打猎吗？
现在没有去打了，年轻的时候去常跟老人家去打，现在忙了一大堆，就没去了。
哦，现在没去了。
对。
以前都打些什么？
山猪、山羊还有八达。
八达是
就是三枪啊。
哦，
以前打到三枪嘛。
三枪也有，有水路吗？
有，对面就有了，以前对面是树林啊。
这边就有了。
对。
从哪来呀？
从自从奇兰下来。
从奇兰那边下来的。
以前那个还没开路的时候，很多啊。
很多以前。那现在呢？现在还有动物吗？
因为有路了，所以没有，这没有了。
道路开了，
对，
就比较没有了。
对。
那还有水路吗？现在？
再来，这个湖里2块来。
再来。
就是花莲七台山能高后面那边可能才有了。
花莲那边还有。对，还多吗？
The Sambhar was once an important resource that the Taiwanese Aborigines depended on for their livelihood. 50 years ago, the Sambhar's footprints could be seen everywhere near the villages. But now the ancient forest is nothing more than a farmland. To find the Sambhar in hills now is virtually impossible. Are the Sambhar still here, in the valleys or in the mountains? According to the records, the Sambhar's territory is vast, from 300-meter-high light jungles to 3,000-meter-high pine tree forests. But now, humans have slowly infilled into their areas, so the Sambhars have had to retreat to higher mountains. The most common places for Sambhars to live are mountain regions of 2,500 meters. The Curvidae has lived in Taiwan for 1 million years. In Taiwan, there are 10 kinds of deer fossils, but now there are only 3 kinds of species left. The Formosan Sika deer, Formosan Sambhar, and the Formosan Reeves muntjac. The Sika deer live in the lowlands. Desire for their beautiful furs and antlers have left them hunted for export for over 300 years. Without a doubt, they suffered. In 1969, the remaining Sika deer in eastern Taiwan were almost all killed and faced the grim threat of extinction. The Reeves muntjac's smaller size enables it to hide. They also have the vastest territory and are seen everywhere, from sea level to the highlands. The deer population has always managed a certain balance, until today. But what about the biggest mammal in Taiwan, the Sambhar, which also lives at the highest of all mountains? What is their status?
人们常说，路是由人所走出来的，但是这条明显的步道却不是由人所走出来的，而是由水路所走出来的。在这片铁山林下，充满了许多水路活动后所留下来的痕迹，纵横的兽径，被啃食的稀稀疏疏的箭竹，以及成堆的排遗。它们也常常在这里泥浴或者是打滚。我们留意这水池的边缘，可以看到水路挖掘、踩踏后所留下来的蹄印。让我们想象一个画面：一只公水鹿起身，走到这里，然后跪卧下来，朝身旁这个铁山磨脚，留下这一道一道又一道的刻痕。令人玩味的是，这一块高密度的水路活动区域，离我们登山时行经过往的避难小屋，相距竟然只有咫尺之遥。
Following the excrement trail, I entered the Sambhar's land. Fascinated, I started my incredible journey with the Sambhars for 8 years. It finally appeared in front of me, after a long wait, with its strong back muscles and sky-high antlers. Its awesome behavior and gestures clearly showed that it truly was the king of the mountains. The male Sambhar's antlers dislodge and fall off once a year. In mid-spring, when the mountain snow has not yet fully melted, the short, furry antlers have already sprouted anew. They grow very fast, and the hairy skin begins to shed. By May or June, when the rhododendron blossom, the antlers are fully grown. However, we can still see some hairy skin not still attached. Going from no antlers to full antlers usually takes about 3 to 4 months. During this time, the male Sambhar is in its most stable temper. The body of the Sambhar is strong and elegant. A fully grown male Sambhar can weigh up to 200 kilograms. On the other hand, a female Sambhar is smaller. Of the 5 largest kinds of Sambhars in the world, the Formosan Sambhar is the smallest of its species, but it's still the biggest mammal in Taiwan. According to Darwin's views on evolution, every kind of animal today has its corresponding way of living. Maybe, if we can use the information we already have and boldly assume the Sambhar's behavior, we may then confirm it by long-term observation in the wild. There are 2 big ears on the sides of a Sambhar's head. Its other surrounding detector is its ultra-sensitive nose. It is still able to sniff the faintest of scents from far away. The Sambhar's eyes are on the sides of its head. It can see its surroundings with a sight angle of about 300 degrees. Its rectangular-shaped pupils enable it to see the entire horizon. When it dips its head, its eyes are still able to look up with a large degree. It keeps its vision the same way it is while standing, so as to be in a constant state of awareness. A pair of preorbital glands as big as the eye sockets will open and give out a gas. when threatened. These also work as markers of their territory. The high mountains of Taiwan are very treacherous, but the sandbar's muscular legs and big hooves still allow it to cope with the difficult terrain quite handily. Although not quite as agile as goats, it still manages an acute nimbleness when treading on rocky surfaces with ease. The sandbar walks firmly step by step. One front leg rises up. Then the hoof stamps into the dirt at a 45-degree angle. When it finds its footing, the foot steps down fully. Then it takes a next step. This is because its legs have to support the entire weight of its heavy body, so it needs to be very cautious while walking. Most of the high mountains in Taiwan are young, and the river valleys are steep. For large animals like sandbars, traveling in the river valleys is not an easy task. But we often see sandbars strolling along wider sections of streams with relative ease, enjoying the sun and the cool water. But compared to the riverbeds with myriad small pebbles, sandbars seem to still prefer the muddy riverbanks. These ponds are just like the sandbar's natural bathtubs. They love to play and roll in the mud. In the meantime, it also helps them get rid of unwanted pests. At 3,000 meters above sea level on the expressionless highlands, what kind of plant can provide abundant herds? The answer lies in the dwarf bamboo that carpets the mountains. The dwarf bamboo is a member of the grass family and is also the most commonly seen plant in the central mountains of Taiwan. Occasionally, sandbars will also eat the Taiwan red pine. When winter approaches, the dwarf bamboo turns into no more than rotten and dead leaves. The sandbars will turn more to red, hairy rhododendron. To get enough nourishment to support its large body, the sandbar's most important work is to eat all day. When eating grass, a sandbar will first tear it in half, grind it to a pulp, then swallow it. The plant is hard to digest because of its high fiber content, so the sandbar needs a long time to ruminate. If we closely watch the sandbar's neck, we can see the vibration caused by the food coming from the stomach back to the mouth. On these highlands, apart from human interference, the sandbar has virtually no predators. But the sudden change of weather, however, may be potentially even more harmful. A strong cold front in late March covers the entire mountain with a blazing snowstorm. After the weather improves, within 1 square kilometer, we found 4 bodies of dead sandbars. Were those sandbars frozen to death due to a sudden temperature drop? Or did they die of other causes? The sandbars continue to be one of the wood's greatest mysteries and continue to call me into their footsteps. The sandbar has always been an elegant creature, and by no means should it be perceived as a dim-witted animal. Its hind legs are like springs and can jump very suddenly, and has little problem jumping long distances uphill. This enables it to escape from danger into the deep forests faster. When a sandbar is threatened or in danger, it will nearly always make for the lush green forest. The sandbar's brownish fur makes an ideal camouflage as it disappears into a sea of leaves. To sum up the above features, we can outline a paradise for sandbars to dwell in. There should be gentle slopes of grass with strips of forest and scattered ponds and lakes. A slow stream would make it even better. This is just the classic habitat for sandbars. By building this sample, we are able to do long-term and stationary observation. Therefore, I entered the world of sandbars and became enthralled in recording a day of the sandbar. You can say that a sandbar's day really starts in the afternoon. After noon, the air becomes denser and wetter. The fog covers the entire mountain, so it gets cooler. The sandbar starts to come out and eat in the evening. They normally do this alone, yet sometimes they gather in groups of 3. Slowly, the mountains and valleys dissolve into darkness, with the last ray of sunlight left on the peaks. The sunset makes the grass warm and reveals layers of the remote mountain silhouettes. When the last rays of sunset descend quietly into the mountains, under the moonlight, the sandbar's party is just beginning. Late at night, the sandbar's activity reaches its climax. Under cover of the darkness, they feel safer and are less afraid of intruders. Slowly, we approach them, and sometimes they dare to venture out to us in front of our cameras. Curious, they can smell us from around the pond. If we camp in the way of their paths or block their roads by accident, they will also stamp their feet around our tent or howl as if trying to shoo us away. Sandbars are most energetic at night, but as the first light of day appears and illuminates the mountains, they slowly settle down and go to sleep. Under the golden rays of morning twilight, the birds sing, and the sandbars that hadn't slept for a night are starting to rest. They each find a cozy grassy spot to bask in the sun and ruminate slowly. Like this, the sandbar spends the entire morning sleeping like a motionless boulder. Along with the gentle wind, it starts to dream. According to field observations, the male sandbars use their antlers mostly for competing with fellow sandbars, as well as defending themselves against predators. At the end of spring, after the antlers are fully developed, the fur on the antlers quickly harden. Meanwhile, the male sandbar will grind its antlers on tree trunks and bamboo to speed up the removal of hairy skin. This also strengthens its neck muscles in preparation for future battles. While grinding its antlers, it will often dig the ground with its front feet, and with glands also on its feet, it leaves a scent while digging. During July, the male sandbars do not fight as much, and may even be seen eating grass peacefully together. When confronted, usually the weaker sandbar retreats, and the stronger one will not give chase. In August, however, everything changes. The antlers are all sharp, and females are getting ready to mate. The fights for territory and mates begin. The stronger ones chase away the weak, and hence urinate on their faces. By mixing it with the smell of preorbital glands, the victor marks his territory. When two Sambhars of the same age meet, a ferocious fight is sure to ensue. This time they aren't really fighting, but after serious bouts, however, they will be injured to varying degrees, including broken branches of antlers, which will grow back the following year, but ripped ears are marks forever. It's hard to fathom how the Sambhars have had to part with their own kin over time. How lucky and clever do they have to be to pass the often grueling tests of nature over and over again so they can survive in Taiwan. Because we are lured by economics and have entered the modern world, gradually under the consideration of business interests, they have lost their vast plains and find themselves held captive in cages. The Sambhar's hairy antlers are a precious ingredient in Chinese medicine, but they are hard to get from wild Sambhars, so the Sambhar farms provide the main supply of hairy antlers. But in these farms, Sambhars are born, age, get diseases, and die. They have never been able to roam free and can only spend their lives gazing through metal bars. They have lost the plains, the untamed nature, as well as their lush golden color and spirit. The Sambhar's head was once a symbol of pride and glory for the native hunters to be hung on walls. Now, Sambhars are raised on farms as tradable products. I believe by looking at a Sambhar in the eyes with respect and love, we can develop a closer relationship with it. Let the Sambhar run freely on the glorious plains and mountains. Let it be an important member of the rich biodiversity of Taiwan. The herbivore Sambhar has never interfered with our existence, but instead lives leisurely on the mountains. Perhaps this is not the way nature works, but with a kind heart, I believe that everything is possible. From pursuing the Sambhar to living in peace with it, I do believe every change lies in our mind.